9 years of suffocating darkness and iron chains ended with my dying breath on a freezing mountain floor. My ultimate reward for catching my sister with my boyfriend. Then my eyes snapped open. I was 18 again, breathing fresh air. This time, she can keep the cheating loser. I choose survival, gasping for air. My hands clawed blindly at the space around me, fully expecting my cracked fingernails to scrape against the rusted iron bars of Caleb's cellar. I braced myself for the biting cold of the Appalachian winter, for the stench of mold and stale sweat that had been my entire world for 3.285 days. Instead, my fingers sank into Egyptian cotton. Sunlight, golden and warm, spilled across my face, carrying the faint, intoxicating scent of lavender room spray. I bolted upright, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I scrambled backward until my spine hit a plush headboard. I was in my bedroom, my childhood bedroom in our sprawling Connecticut estate. My eyes darted around the room, taking in the pristine white vanity, the rows of untouched designer perfumes, the bulletin board covered in Polaroids of smiling teenagers. I threw off the duvet and rushed to the full-length mirror. Staring back at me was a girl I barely recognized. Her cheeks were full and rosy. Her blonde hair cascaded down her shoulders in glossy waves, and her collarbones didn't jut out like brittle hangers beneath bruised skin. There were no scars on my wrists, no missing teeth from where Caleb had backhanded me for crying too loud. I was Stella Hastings, 18 years old captain of the debate team and heir to the Hastings real estate empire. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. The screen lit up Friday, October 17th. A full-body shudder racked my frame, forcing me to my knees. The plush carpet felt alien against my bare skin. October 17th, the day of the Carter High homecoming weekend party. The exact day my life ended and my descent into hell began. In my previous life, tonight was the night I was supposed to sneak out to the pool house to surprise my boyfriend, Liam Montgomery. Liam, the golden boy quarterback, the guy with the blinding smile, who had promised to love me forever. Instead, I had found him tangled in the sheets with Harper, my sweet, innocent younger sister. The memory of my past reaction tasted like ash in my mouth. I had screamed. I had thrown a glass vase that shattered against the wall. Blinded by tears and heartbreak, I had run to my car, peeled out of the driveway, and driven recklessly into the rainy night. My car had broken down on Route 9, a desolate stretch of road surrounded by dense woods. That was when the rusty Ford F-150 pulled up. That was when Caleb stepped out, offering a friendly smile and a tow. It was a trap. For 9 years, I was locked in a subterranean root cellar in the mountains, beaten, starved, and broken. While my family assumed I had run away in a fit of teenage rebellion, I died of pneumonia on a cold dirt floor, a forgotten ghost. But God, or the universe, had ripped me from the jaws of death and violently shoved me back into the driver's seat of my own life. I dragged myself up from the floor, my legs trembling, but my mind operating with a terrifying, icy clarity. I wasn't the naive 18-year-old girl who valued a cheating boy's love over her own life. I was a survivor of a 9-year nightmare, and I was going to use every ounce of the vicious cunning I had learned in the dark to protect myself. Stella. The soft knock on my door was followed by the turn of the handle. Harper poked her head in. She looked exactly as I remembered. Dew-eyed brunette, wrapped in an oversized cashmere sweater. The picture of innocence. "Are you getting ready for the party?" Harper asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Liam just texted me. He said he's waiting for you down by the pool house." A wave of nausea washed over me, immediately followed by a surge of pure, unadulterated rage. Looking at her now, knowing what I knew, all the puzzle pieces of my past life clicked into place. The way Caleb had seemed to know my name before I told him. The way he casually mentioned once in a drunken stupor during my 5th year of captivity that the pretty brunette paid good money for this. It wasn't an accident. Harper hadn't just stolen my boyfriend. She had eliminated her only competition for the Hastings Trust Fund. I forced the corners of my mouth into a lazy smile, suppressing the urge to wrap my hands around her slender throat. I'm getting ready right now. Harps, tell Liam I'll be down in 10 minutes. Okay. She beamed, completely unaware that she was looking into the eyes of a ghost. Have fun. As soon as the door clicked shut, I moved. I didn't reach for my makeup or the silk dress I had worn in my past life. Instead, I pulled a sturdy duffel bag from my closet. I packed essentials, my passport, my birth certificate, my private bank cards, comfortable clothes, and a pair of heavy hiking boots. I zipped it shut and hid it under my bed. Next, I opened my laptop. I had been accepted into a prestigious exchange program in London, but I had originally turned it down because Liam begged me not to leave him. I pulled up my email, found the acceptance letter, and hit reply. I will be accepting the offer. I can arrive on Monday. I printed the confirmation, folded it neatly, and slipped it into my pocket. I wasn't just going to run away. I was going to sever every tie to this toxic house, and I was going to do it legally and cleanly. But first, I had a blessing to give. The bass from the main house stereo thudded against the manicured lawns of our estate. Teenagers were spilling out of the French doors, red plastic cups in hand, their laughter drifting into the cool autumn air. I walked right past them, pulling a dark hoodie over my head, moving like a shadow toward the secluded pool house at the edge of the property. My heart hammered a primal instinct, screaming at me to run to avoid the catalyst of my 9-year torture. But I bit my lip until I tasted copper anchoring myself to the present. I had to face this. I had to change the narrative. Through the sheer curtains of the pool house, I saw the flickering light of a dozen candles. Liam had set them up supposedly for me. The irony made me sick. I didn't burst through the door this time. I didn't scream. I placed my hand on the cold brass handle, turned it silently, and pushed the door open just enough to step inside. They were on the velvet chaise lounge. Liam's hands were tangled in Harper's hair, their clothes discarded on the Italian tile floor. It was exactly as I remembered it, a sickening carbon copy of my worst nightmare. But this time, I didn't feel a shred of heartbreak. I only felt a cold, clinical disgust. I pulled out my phone, made sure the flash was off, and snapped 3 crystal clear photos. The digital click of the camera's shutter cut through their heavy breathing like a gunshot. Liam froze. Harper gasped, shoving him off her as she scrambled to pull a throw blanket over her chest. Stella. Liam's voice cracked in a pathetic squeak, his face drained of all color, his eyes wide with absolute terror. Stella. Wait, it's not what you think. Really. I leaned against the door frame, crossing my arms. I kept my voice perfectly level, devoid of any emotion, because it looks exactly like my boyfriend sleeping with my sister in our pool house. Stella, please, Harper sobbed, her eyes welling up with fake tears. She was good. I'd give her that. In my past life, her tears had confused me, making me feel like somehow I was the one ruining the family. It just happened. We didn't mean to. Save the performance. Harper, I don't care. That stopped them. Liam was already reaching for his pants, stammering apologies, but my chillingly calm demeanor halted him in his tracks. They stared at me, bewildered. This wasn't the script. I was supposed to be crying. I was supposed to be destroyed. You don't care, Liam echoed, looking almost offended. Not in the slightest, I said, stepping further into the room. I held up my phone, tapping the screen. You two are actually perfect for each other. You're both liars. You're both cowards. And honestly, you've just saved me a lot of time and energy. What are you going to do with those pictures? Harper's voice dropped an octave, the innocent facade slipping just a fraction. The real Harper was peeking out. That depends entirely on you, little sister, I said, walking toward her until I was standing over the chaise lounge. I looked down at her, channeling every ounce of the hardened survivor I had become in that mountain cellar. She flinched, shrinking back into the cushions. Tomorrow morning, I am transferring to a school in London, I stated, my voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. I am leaving this house, and I am taking my portion of the trust fund early. You're going to go into Dad's study, and you're going to tell him that you think it's a brilliant idea. You will convince him to sign the early release papers. If he hesitates, you will beg him, and if I don't, Harper challenged, her eyes narrowing. If you don't, these photos go to Dad. They go to Mom. They go to the principal at Carter High. They go to the cheer squad. And they go to the admissions board at Yale, where I happen to know you just submitted your early application, emphasizing your strong moral character and family values. Liam looked like he was going to vomit. Stella, you wouldn't. Try me. Liam. I snapped my eyes, locking onto his. For a split second, the image of Caleb's sneering face superimposed over Liam's, and a dangerous feral energy spiked in my veins. You have no idea what I am capable of. Not anymore. I turned back to Harper. You wanted him. You have him. Consider this my blessing. You two can rot in this town together for all I care. But if you try to stop me from leaving, or if you ever try to contact me again, I will burn your entire world to the ground. Do we understand each other? Harper swallowed hard, her knuckles white as she gripped the blanket. Slowly, she nodded. Good. I pocketed my phone. I didn't look at them again. I simply turned on my heel and walked out of the pool house. The cool night air hit my face, and for the first time in what felt like 9 years, I took a deep, unrestricted breath. The suffocating weight of my past life was lifting. I had flipped the script. I had taken away their power. But as I walked back up the winding gravel path toward the main house, a chill swept down my spine that had nothing to do with the October wind. Parked across the street from our front gates, partially obscured by the shadow of a large oak tree, was a rusty, beat-up Ford F-150. My breath caught in my throat. My feet cemented themselves to the driveway. The street lights flickered, illuminating the dented front bumper and the muddy license plate. I knew that truck. I knew the smell of the interior, a mix of stale tobacco and cheap vanilla air freshener. I knew the heavy, terrifying tread of the man sitting behind the steering wheel. Caleb, he was already here. My heart hammered a frantic warning against my ribs. I had assumed that my kidnapping in my past life was a crime of opportunity. That Caleb had just stumbled upon a vulnerable, crying teenager, broken down on the side of the road. And Harper had paid him off after the fact to keep me hidden. But seeing him parked outside my house, waiting, watching the front gates on the very night I was supposed to run away, the horrifying truth crashed down on me like an anvil. It was premeditated. Harper hadn't just capitalized on my disappearance. She had orchestrated it from the beginning. She had hired a monster to sit outside our home, waiting for the perfect moment to snatch me away forever. If I had run crying to my car tonight, Caleb would have followed me. He would have run me off the road. A cold sweat broke out across my forehead. The transfer to London wouldn't be enough. Blackmailing Harper wouldn't be enough. As long as that truck was idling in the shadows, as long as Caleb was on Harper's payroll, I was dead meat. I ducked behind the thick hedges lining the driveway, my hands shaking as I pulled out my phone. I couldn't call the police. I had no proof yet, just the paranoid ravings of a girl who supposedly hadn't been kidnapped yet. If I spooked them, Caleb would slip back into the mountains and Harper would just hire someone else. I needed to be smarter. I needed to trap them both in a web of their own making. I pulled up my contacts and stared at the name of the one person I knew I could trust. The only person in this superficial town who hated the Hastings family politics as much as I was starting to. Declan Vance. Wait. Self-correction. The prompt said no. Vance. I must change the name immediately. Declan Shaw. Declan was the son of the town's disgraced former police chief. He was an outcast, a hacker, and a cynic who sat in the back of my AP government class, sketching highly detailed portraits of decaying buildings. In my past life, we had shared exactly 3 conversations, but I remembered a rumor that Declan ran a private server where he exposed local corruption for fun. I typed out a message with trembling fingers. Declan, it's Stella Hastings. I need a massive favor, and I have enough cash to buy you that server's upgrade you've been complaining about. Meet me behind the school bleachers tomorrow at 6 a.m. Don't tell anyone. I hit send. Looking through the leaves of the hedge, I watched the glowing tip of Caleb's cigarette illuminate the cab of his truck. A terrifying, predatory smile stretched across my face in the dark. For 9 years, I had been the prey. I had cowed, I had begged, and I had died in a cage, but they had made a fatal mistake. They had let me come back. And this time, I wasn't just going to escape the mountain. I was going to bury them under it. Dawn broke over the Connecticut suburbs in a wash of cold. Bruised purple, I sat on the damp aluminum of the school bleachers, my breath pluming in the crisp morning air. My hands were wrapped around a thermos of black coffee, but the caffeine was entirely unnecessary. The sheer adrenaline of survival was keeping me sharp, vibrating through my veins like a live wire. Footsteps crunched on the frost-covered grass. Declan Shaw materialized from the morning fog hands, shoved deep into the pockets of an oversized vintage leather jacket. He looked exactly as I remembered. Sharp, jawline, messy, dark hair, and eyes that held a cynical intelligence far beyond his 18 years. He didn't say a word as he climbed the bleachers, dropping his heavy canvas backpack onto the metal bench beside me. "You're here early. Hastings," Declan muttered, his voice growly with sleep. "Your text sounded like a ransom note. What kind of mess are you in that requires my specific, highly questionable skill set before first period?" I didn't smile. I reached into my duffel bag, pulled out a thick manila envelope, and tossed it onto his lap. It landed with a heavy, satisfying thud. $10. 000 in crisp $100 bills. My emergency stash from my private savings. Declan unfastened the clasp, peering inside. His eyes widened slightly, the cynical mask slipping for a fraction of a second. "Okay, you have my undivided attention. Who are we destroying?" "My sister," I stated coldly, "and a man named Caleb Bowman. He drives a rusty 1998 Ford F-15 Connecticut plates ending in 7G4. He spent the entire night parked outside my estate." Declan let out a low whistle, pulling a sleek, modified laptop from his bag. "Harper Hastings, the school's reigning princess of purity. What did she do?" "Steal your favorite designer bag. She hired him to abduct me," I said, my voice deadpan, devoid of any trembling. I watched Declan's fingers freeze over his keyboard. He slowly turned his head to look at me, searching my face for the punchline. When he found only cold, hard truth, his demeanor shifted instantly. The sarcastic teenager vanished, replaced by a hyper-focused predator. "Give me every single detail you have," Declan demanded, his fingers flying across the keys in a blur. For the next hour, I spun a carefully curated version of the truth. I didn't tell him about my past life. He would have committed me to a psych ward. But I told him I had overheard Harper on the phone. I told him I had caught Liam and Harper together, and that Harper was trying to eliminate me to secure the entirety of the Hastings family trust. "She's smart, but she's arrogant," I explained, watching lines of code reflect in Declan's dark eyes. "She wouldn't use her main bank account, check for offshore transfers, crypto wallets, or dummy corporations tied to her maiden name. Caleb isn't a professional hitman. He's a low-life scavenger from the Appalachian foothills. He's going to leave a digital trail. Give me a minute," Declan muttered. Silence stretched between us, broken only by the frantic clacking of his keyboard. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, Declan hit the enter key with a vicious strike. "Gotcha, you little sociopath," he whispered, turning the screen towards me. "Harper opened a shell account in the Cayman Islands 3 months ago under the name HH Enterprises. 2 days ago, she wired $50,000 to a Shell LLC registered to AP Box in West Virginia. The registered owner of that LLC, Caleb Bowman." A twisted sense of vindication washed over me. I wasn't crazy. My 9 years of torture hadn't been random. They had been purchased. "Download everything." I commanded, a dangerous fire igniting in my chest. "The IP addresses, the transfer receipts, everything. We aren't just going to the local cops. Half of them are on my father's payroll anyway. We're going to the FBI. But first, we're going to set a trap that my sweet little sister will walk right into." The rest of the day was a masterclass in psychological warfare. I returned home and played the part of the utterly defeated, heartbroken teenager. I cried on cue when I told my parents. Richard and Victoria Hastings, that I simply couldn't bear to stay at Carter High after Liam's betrayal. I pleaded for the early release of my trust fund and the immediate transfer to the London Academy. Harper played her part beautifully, too. She stood beside my father's mahogany desk, squeezing my shoulder with fake sympathy. "Dad, I really think it's for the best," Harper murmured. Her doe, eyes wide. "Stella needs a fresh start. Being here is just hurting her. I'll miss her terribly, but we have to do what's right for her mental health." My father sighed, adjusting his reading glasses. "Very well. Stella, I'll authorize the early release of the funds and sign the transfer papers. You fly out tonight." "Thank you, Daddy," I whispered, keeping my eyes downcast to hide the murderous glare burning in my pupils. Before I left the study, I made sure to pull Harper aside. I leaned in close, letting my voice waver perfectly. "I'm driving myself to JFK Airport tonight at 11 p.m. I'm clear as throat, taking the back roads through Route 9. I want one last drive through the woods before I leave this terrible place forever. Don't tell Mom and Dad. They'll want the chauffeur to take me, and I just need to be alone." Harper's eyes gleamed with a predatory triumph. She thought she had won. She thought she had perfectly maneuvered me into isolation. "Your secret is safe with me. Stella, have a safe trip." Headlights cut through the pitch-black stretch of Route 9 like predatory eyes. The rain had started to fall in sheets, drumming a frantic, deafening rhythm against the roof of my Mercedes. It was an exact replica of the night I died. The winding road was slick, surrounded on both sides by dense, suffocating pine trees that seemed to lean in, eager to swallow me whole. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn the car around, to flee back to the safety of civilization. But I gripped the leather steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I was not the prey anymore. In the rear view mirror, a pair of dim, uneven headlights appeared through the torrential rain. The rusty Ford F-150. Caleb was right on schedule. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I tapped the speakerphone button. "Clear's throat, he's tailing you. Hastings." Declan's voice crackled through the speakers, laced with heavy static. "GPS shows him exactly 60 yards behind your bumper. FBI Special Agent Harrison, Wright is on the secure line. The roadblock is set up 2 miles ahead. Are you ready?" I was born ready for this. I replied, my voice steady and cold. "Let's finish it." I slammed my foot on the brake. My Mercedes skidded slightly on the wet asphalt before coming to a violent halt on the shoulder of the desolate road. I turned on my hazard lights, casting an eerie, flashing orange glow into the surrounding forest. Through the rain-streaked mirror, I watched Caleb pull his truck onto the shoulder right behind me. The engine idled with a heavy mechanical growl. My breath hitched. This was the moment. The exact moment he had knocked on my window 9 years ago, offering a fake smile and a tow rope that would become my chains. I didn't wait for him to approach. I unbuckled my seatbelt, grabbed my keys, and stepped out into the freezing downpour. Caleb slammed his truck door shut. He was a massive man, built like a brick wall, wearing a dirty flannel shirt and a hunting cap. He took a step toward me, a sickeningly familiar, greasy smile spreading across his face. "Car trouble, little lady." Caleb shouted over the roar of the rain, reaching into his back pocket. I knew what was in there, the heavy metal flashlight he had used to knock me unconscious in my past life. "Looks like you could use some help." I didn't shrink back. I didn't cry. I stood tall in the pouring rain, staring directly into the eyes of the monster who had stolen a decade of my existence. "I don't need your help, Caleb Bowman," I shouted back, my voice slicing through the storm. Caleb froze. His smile evaporated, replaced by genuine confusion. "How do you know my name?" "I know a lot of things," I sneered, taking a step toward him. "I know Harper paid you $50, 000 from an offshore Cayman account. I know you're planning to take me to a root cellar in the Appalachian foothills, and I know that in exactly 3 seconds your life is going to be over." Caleb's face twisted in rage. He pulled the heavy metal flashlight from his pocket and lunged at me. You little bee. Beep. A blinding spotlight suddenly erupted from the tree, illuminating the entire road like a football stadium. Sirens screamed into life, deafening and triumphant, from the woods, from behind the bend in the road, and from the sky above. The authorities descended. FBI, drop the weapon. Get on the ground now. Agent Harrison Wright, flanked by a dozen heavily armed tactical officers, swarmed the road. Red and blue lights flashed wildly against the wet asphalt. Caleb dropped the flashlight, his hands flying into the air as he dropped to his knees in the mud. He looked completely bewildered, a terrified animal caught in a snare he never saw coming. Officers tackled him to the ground, pulling his arms violently behind his back and snapping cold steel handcuffs around his wrists. I stood in the rain, completely untouched, watching the man who had murdered me in another life be dragged away like the garbage he was. Agent Wright stepped toward me, lowering his weapon. Are you all right, Miss Hastings? I'm perfectly fine, Agent Wright, I said, a slow, genuine smile spreading across my face for the first time since I woke up in this life. Have you secured my sister? Wright tapped his earpiece, listening for a moment before nodding grimly. We just got confirmation. Local authorities raided the Hastings estate 5 minutes ago. Your sister Harper was arrested in her bedroom. We have the wire transfer receipts, the burner phones, everything. She's looking at federal conspiracy and attempted kidnapping charges. She won't see daylight for a very, very long time. A heavy, suffocating weight that I had been carrying for 9 lifetimes finally lifted off my shoulders. The air smelled crisp and clean, washing away the phantom stench of the mountain cellar. 2 hours later, I was sitting in the first-class cabin of a red-eye flight to London Heathrow. Declan had met me at the airport terminal to hand over my encrypted hard drives. I had given him the rest of my cash stash and a promise to fund his tech startup once I gained full control of my trust. As the plane accelerated down the runway and lifted off into the night sky, I looked out the window at the shrinking lights of Connecticut. Harper was in a federal holding cell. Caleb was facing life in a maximum security prison. Liam was left behind in a town that would soon know he was sleeping with an attempted murderer. They had tried to bury me in the dark, but they forgot that seeds thrive in the dirt. I had been reborn in the darkness, and now the entire world belonged to me. Thank you so much for listening to this crazy, twisted story of betrayal and revenge. If you loved hearing how Stella flipped the script on her toxic sister and escaped her fate, please smash that like button right now. Don't forget to share this video with your friends who love a good thriller, and make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on more intense real-life drama stories. Drop a comment below. What would you have done in Stella's shoes? See you in the next video. My name is Stephen Jones, the owner and manager of Final Golden Rebirth. After watching the video, Reborn, I transferred schools and blessed his affair with my sister, escaping 9 years of mountain captivity. I'd really like to know what you think. How did this story make you feel? What stayed with me most was the feeling of finally breaking free and finding the courage to choose a different path. Stories like this remind us that even after years of hardship, people can still reclaim their future and make decisions for themselves. One lesson I took away is that letting go of what hurts us can sometimes be the first step toward healing. If you were in that situation, what choice would you have made? And which moment in the story stood out to you the most? Maybe we can all apply that idea by focusing on the choices that move us forward instead of keeping us stuck in the past. If this story meant something to you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your watching.